started to work more on the new product, which was much less tied to the delivery part. So this is where we actually stopped working together. I think many things were said about Ella, so it's probably what I'm going to say is a repeat. But generally, definitely, Ella was a person, back then you need to realize the organization was very informal from a processes, organization, so everything was done like in an unplanned, and the tasks were thrown onto you. So there were many, many occasions where you needed someone, a champion, to take a project and complete it in a very, very tight schedule. And you always, all the time you knew that Ella would be the person to approach. So that's kind of a thing from Ella, that you knew if you have a project that you need to complete and you needed support, Ella would be the person to do it. A couple of days ago, I went through the emails from Ella to see if I can find out things. And now the emails go only back to 2011. But then I picked up one of the emails that remind me that throughout the year we had all the time arguments with Ella about the difference between authority and responsibility. Ella all the time claims, and we had here internally a lot of arguments about whether someone that we are giving him the responsibility, whether he also received the authority. And you see from the email chains that Ella all the time felt that we are giving her a lot of responsibilities without giving her the authority. That was her feeling. But I'll tell you something. I think that Ella is an excellent example. At the end of the day, is an excellent example, and I think people need to learn that, is how people, without really a formal authority, can take responsibility and influence on a much, much bigger organization that they are really controlling and have the authority for it. And this is something that I believe was very unique to Ella. And when I see today, I see those gaps in many people, and I hope really that they will learn from Ella, you know, how to take the authority even if you are not getting it. Meaning if you only get the responsibility to pick up the authority by yourself and influence others.
Thank you, Ran. I didn't introduce Ran. Ran is running delivery for our main products. Most of the managers that were here before reporting to Ran. He has hundreds of people working for him, and basically he deploys our products around the world, including most of the largest banks in the world. In addition, he is the brother of Efrat that was singing it. He's Rani. Okay. Moti Porat is running pre-sales for Fantech. Moti.
I'll do it in English, okay? So
It's easier.
I guess for Joe and for the others, okay? I'll actually tell you the first real professional encounter that I had with Ella, which condenses a lot of the themes here. I've been in Fantech, but we worked in parallel. I was in the States, had my own products. She was here, and we had, you know, professional discussions. Everything was very mild and nice, and this. And I think in 2004, I developed a product called CLS, and there was some changes needed in the product that was developed here in Israel. I was here. She asked me to come and help her with something. I was very proud and eager. I heard already about Ella and her professionalism and knowledge, etc. So I came, equipped to teach her something, So I came, she sat in this room in the back, near Bev and Ron and Mirav. There was like a cluster there. And I came in, it was claustrophobic the moment I came to the room. It was very, and she had a very teeny tiny whiteboard. And I immediately stand up, hi there, and I start to draw, and say, this is how it works, like this, and draw. And I look at her, and she had piercing eyes, and she looks at me, and she had a very throaty voice, and her facial wasn't very pleasant. Like, what are you talking about? It's not like this. And, I came with a lot of confidence. I've done it for quite a few years. I know what it is. And it's getting more and more intense. And then she stands up, she comes to the whiteboard, and I feel the next thing she's going to paste me to the board. It's like I felt, and she kind of takes over and starts to draw there, etc. And I say, Ella, look, it's slightly different. Didn't help. And I was scared to death. It's the first time. It was really, I didn't know. And I felt so claustrophobic, I needed to get out of there. At the same time, there were huge, it was, later I learned it was a common scene. Ran Ben-Tzur and Mirav were fighting with each other. On the other side, I said, I have a chance to say, look, I can't hear you. I have to go out and ask them to be a little bit quieter. So I stepped out, came to Ran, and I tell him, Ran, can you be quieter? And actually, what I needed is just air. I just needed air. That's what I needed. So he told me, get lost. You are the ones who are yelling at the other room. So I went back to the room, and I'm thinking, what I'm going to do, what I'm going to tell her. So I said, we'll take a pause somehow. I came back, and suddenly this totally different discussion starts about raising your kids in the U.S., and what is more difficult, to raise young kids or to raise older kids. And like for 45 minutes we'll go into this totally different thing, totally personal, totally intimate. Like she didn't want to kill me about 10 minutes ago. So we've done this. Jumping to the next day, she called me and she said, I think I understood what you said. I think it sounds okay. I have one more question. And at this point, I swear to God, my blood pressure goes down. I said, no, I can't take it anymore. And she asked me this question, and I lost my confidence. And I pretty self-confident about things. I have to ask someone before I give you the answer. and so it was pretty, and then, we worked quite closely, as Reuven said, with a lot of intensity, but tremendous amount of intellect and creativity and great things that came out of this. So it was great. And in the meantime, she already was a grandmother. I was expecting to be a grandfather, and a totally different facet. I remember one day we had to actually create a presentation to go out, and she said, I cannot do it today. My granddaughter had a surgery, and I have to go and be with her. It was like, with the softest, most intimate voice that I've ever encountered. And that's Ella for me. Oh.
Thank you, Moti. Zach, can you talk a bit about Ella's contribution to the company? Start with the Purim parties.
Okay. I'm sure Yoram remembers this as well. One of the first, maybe the first Purim party, Yoram and Ella came together. Yoram was the doctor and Ella was the sick. The patient.
I remember that somebody from Fantech came to me and she asked me, are you a real doctor? I was very professional with my outfit and everything. Are you really?
So it was, as usual, there was this competition, costume competition, and Ella with, I think Ella has a very theatrical personality. She likes to act, so she dragged Yoram on the stage, and she did the patient act, and she was much more funnier than the host of the evening. So, but I think after that, Yoram didn't come to any Purim party. Ella's contribution, I think, and people said it, is she was, by far the most dedicated person. And usually when lights went out in this company, there was one room where lights were still on, and this was Ella's room. And I think part of the reason that Ella sometimes screamed at people was because she was passionate, she really cared. I mean, she built this product. She built this company. She was part of the small team of people that built this company, and she really cared. And when she felt that somebody is doing something wrong to her product, then she was upset, and she made sure that people knew about it. It definitely wasn't easy to manage Ella for 16 years, but it was a privilege, and I will miss her.
Yeah, we will all miss Ella. Joe, do you want to add maybe an anecdote?
I think that what Zach and everyone has said sums it up. And as I had said before, you look for what is the spirit of Funtech, to repeat myself, I guess in a way, it's as an honorary Israeli, I can say it. She was very smart and very tough, but cared a lot, as Zach said, about results and about individuals, and amazing combination. So it's unique, a unique combination of qualities, and certainly because I've been in Funtech so long, or had been for so long, that I had the opportunity and the pleasure, really. And sometimes, as Modi says, it didn't feel like pleasure. It felt a little bit like you were getting beaten with chains, but the results were always good, because everybody working together trying to make whatever it was better. So, yep, it wasn't always fun, but the results were always good when you dealt with Ella. So the memories on balance could not be better.
Joey, thank you. Zach will close this discussion.
There's one thing I wanted to add. A lot of people, and this is a bit about the product, so we've probably the most innovative thing that we have in our product is what we call the rule engine, which allows you to customize the product for every customer through some kind of a rule definition. And when the rule started, it started as a simple thing that was just was supposed to just be part of the screen, something that you can classify messages. And Ella was part of that design, and Ella said, wait a minute, maybe why don't we make it a generic tool that will actually allow us to make the product much more generic. And this is, if you ask about contribution, this is one. Ella was involved everything basically, but this is a major contribution that made a difference in the product. I think that I will close with reading a few words from Elizabeth Johnson. Elizabeth Johnson was one of the first customers of Funtech. And this is what she wrote when I asked her to participate in this event. So she say, first time I met Ella was early 1997. She came to Sweden to prepare for starting our implementation of PayPlus RTGS. It was freezing cold and Ella was more or less in summer clothes. We from Sweden were wondering from what planet she came from. Summer clothes in January in Sweden. I came with Ella during that visit, and we came, wasn't summer clothes, we came with Israeli winter clothes. But for Swedish people, these are summer clothes. It was freezing. What I always will remember Ella is for her kind way, her open mind, and as a good listener. She always took the time for me, and I didn't feel that it was only because I was a customer, but more as a really good friend. And that is how I see my relationship with Ella. When Israel was under attack, I don't remember the year, Tel Aviv had suicide bomb attacks more or less every day, and I started to worry about the people in Tel Aviv. I called Mark Wilson, he was the sales manager, and he helped me with a telephone conference involving Tel Aviv, New York, and London. And Funtech started telling me how they worked, how they protected their development side, etc., which was good. But what I really wanted to know for sure was that Funtech protected the people in Tel Aviv well and kept them safe, and that Ella and her team was taken care of. I'm grateful for having known Ella and for having learned so much from her. And there's one last line that I want to finish, and this is from Michael Anderson, who was a former Funtech employee. And he said, I can still hear Ella's hearty laugh and see the twinkle in her eye. And this is the way I would like to remember Ella.
Thank you, Zach.
Well, I heard there was a secret chord that David played and pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do you? Well, it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall and the major lift, the baffled